So, as I was saying, my dad bought my mom a gorgeous microwave oven. Nobody in our church, I mean, all the kids, you know, as a kid, you go around to other kids' homes, you know what they have in their home. You know, I remember Ron Adcock, his dad got the first VCR in the whole church. And his dad was the vice president of Pep Boys. And so they were affluent. And he had the first VCR. It was like $3,600. And it was Betamax. And you could rent a movie. You know, you could rent a movie.
Wow, what a difference.
Wow. And bring a movie to your house and watch a movie in your home without commercials. Oh, it was incredible. It was an incredible time to be alive. And so my dad bought the first microwave. People would come over to our house to look at this microwave. It was something very unique. And like I said, it was big, it was dark nautical blue. It had steering wheels on it from sailboats all over it because it was designed to be put in a yacht. And it came with an egg cup. I don't know why it came with an egg cup, but it came with an egg cup. And so as a kid, I thought, you know, I didn't really like eggs that much, but I thought, hey, if it comes with an egg cup and you should at least give it a try. You know, shouldn't you give it a try? You know, just give it a try, right? I'm a kid. Give it a try. Put the egg in the egg cup and put the egg cup in the microwave. That doesn't sound like a big deal, does it? Well, it wasn't a big deal until I pulled the egg out of the microwave and stuck it with a fork. And the minute I stuck that egg with a fork, it exploded. I mean, there was a literal boom you could hear in our house.
What the hell was that?
When it exploded, there was nothing of the egg left in the egg cup. But there were microscopic dots of egg all over our kitchen. Now, our kitchen had an 18-foot long bar. It was a big, huge kitchen. And there was egg everywhere. We should have called the insurance company. We had some girls staying at our house. I was scrubbing egg. They were scrubbing egg. My mom was angry. Oh, she was so angry. And there was egg on our roof for weeks and months to come on the ceiling of the kitchen. The microwave changed the egg with invisible power. Did you hear me? The microwave changed the egg with invisible power. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but it leads to that old joke of a story of the lady who tried to dry her cat after washing it in the microwave. A microwave is going to fundamentally change a cat. If you put a cat in a microwave and turn it on, you will change that cat. You will change just about anything if you don't use the microwave correctly. They're a wonderful tool, but you know it's an invisible power that has this change force. I remember watching the documentary on Chernobyl, and it was amazing. People died trying to rescue people from the effects of Chernobyl. People who watched it and stood in a certain place all died because they were irradiated, okay? So they received radiation. The radiation to them was invisible. They didn't know they were being killed, but they were being killed right then and right there. Well, we serve a God who spoke the universe into existence. His very words created all that we know. You know, we'll have to look up the quote, Randy, but the thumbprint was enough to convince him that there was a God. The thumb, just the thumb, was enough to convince him that there had to be a creator for human beings to have a thumb with a thumbprint. It's amazing the power God has. And God has the power to change your life. God has the power to change your circumstances. God knows what your circumstances are. He knows where you're at. He knows all things about you. And so that's what this blessing does in people's life. When we receive the blessing, it meets this, it fills a hole in our hearts. You know, Jacob, there's an interesting story about Jacob in the Bible. It's found in Genesis chapter 32, 24 through 29. It reads this way: Then when Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him, that was Jesus, wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Now when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, your name, watch this, "your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with man and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked, saying, "Tell me your name, I pray." And he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Now, the thing that you need to understand about Jacob, and many of you know the Bible story, but you know, we live in a society where a lot of people didn't go to church as kids. They didn't go to Sunday school. You don't know all the Old Testament stories by heart. But Jacob and Esau were born as twins. They grew up together. Jacob's name means supplanter. Actually, you could say thief or embezzler. You know, can you imagine having your mom name you Little Thief or Little Embezzler?
You know what's amazing to me? You can name your kid anything you want. Isn't that incredible? There are no laws. There should be a couple of laws. None.
You know, and you're walking down the road and goes, "There's the little thief, there's the little embezzler." You know, "Hey, Jacob, how's it going?" How could anybody call their kid Jacob? What in the world was she thinking, calling this guy's name Jacob? You know, and it marked him. And then he manipulated to gain the blessing. His entire life was as a scammer.
Hello, my name is Tommy Flanagan, and I'm a member of Pathological Liars Anonymous. In fact, I'm the president of that organization. Yeah, that's who I am.
I mean, he scammed to get the blessing. You know what Jacob was? Jacob was what I call a self-directed believer, okay? He believed in God, but it didn't affect his behavior in any way, shape, or form. He did what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it. He helped God out at any turn that he could. And then he would hold his results up and say, "God, will you bless this?" You know, he didn't ask God, "What do you want me to do?" He didn't ask God, "Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to marry?" He just did his own thing, and then he hoped that God would put his seal of approval on it afterwards. That's called being self-directed, not God-directed. And so Jacob was a classic self-directed believer, and yet then he has this encounter with God. And in this encounter with God, here's Jacob, who is living his entire life looking over his shoulder for what he didn't receive. And even though his father finally blessed him, he stole the blessing. Guess what happens when you steal something? Or when you manipulate to get something? Or when you gain something because you've strategized to do it and you've worked your own agenda out? It doesn't satisfy. Even if you get what God wants to give you. If you get what God wants to give you in your own strength, there's no satisfaction. You know, the old Rolling Stones song, "I can't get no satisfaction." They had everything. They had drugs, they had booze, they had women, they had money, they had fame, fortune. Anything they wanted was at their disposal. They could literally say, "I only want green jelly beans in my green room before the concert," and there'd just be green jelly beans there, and they could pitch a fit if there wasn't. They could have anything they wanted, anytime they wanted, anywhere they wanted, and they write the song, "I can't get no satisfaction." Why? Because if you steal, if you manipulate, if you go outside the plan of God for your life, No matter what you get, no matter what you gain, if you hire a prostitute, you're not going to be satisfied with the sex you receive. It'll have a momentary satisfaction, but long term, it's not satisfying. Right? It's not like being married and having a godly marriage. So Jacob has this huge hole in his soul that it can't be filled with more sheep, it can't be filled with more goats, it can't be filled with more wives, and he's becoming a wealthy man. And then he has this encounter with God, and God changes his name. And one of the incredible things about God changing us is that many times the people around us don't want to let God change us. They don't want to recognize that change. How many times do we hear the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? We're not hearing the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. God changed his name. Phillips didn't change his name. Jacob didn't go down to the courthouse and have his name changed. God changed his name, but people didn't want to let him change. They wanted to keep reminding him, you know, you're a thief, you're an embezzler. But God touched him. God changed him. God said, you are Israel. And I hope that Jacob looked in the mirror every morning and said, I am Israel. I am Israel. I am Israel. And God's invisible power fulfilled and filled a hole in his heart to the point that the next scene we see in Jacob is he's meeting with his brother. He's trying to butter his brother up. He's sending him goats and sheep and everything. And his brother says, look, cut it out. I'm not going to hurt you. I've gotten over it. I forgive you. And I'm a wealthy man. So you can't, this giving me gifts doesn't really matter. And Jacob says this thing. Hear me. He says, you may have much, but I have all that I need. He couldn't say that before this supernatural encounter with God, and his name was changed. You may have much, but I have all that I need. Can you say that today? Can you honestly look at your circumstances, look at the good, the bad, the indifferent, the history that you have, the relationship with God that you have, and say to your friends and neighbors, you may have much. To look at the Rolling Stones and say, you may have much, but I have satisfaction. I have all that I need. He is all I need. All I need. Jesus is all I need.
Philippians 4, verses 4 through 9. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let everyone see your gentleness. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything. Instead, in every situation, through prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, tell your requests to God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Jesus Christ.